The Lib Dems, Plaid Cymru and the Green Party have agreed to stand aside for each other in 60 seats in England and Wales in a bid to maximise the number of Remain MPs in the next Parliament. So in England, the Greens will have a free run at 9 seats, including Brighton Pavilion, Cannock Chase in Staffordshire and Exeter. At the same time, the Greens will step aside for the Lib Dems in 40 English seats, including Bath, Twickenham and Outer York. In Wales, the Greens get Glamorgan, the Lib Dems 3 seats, including recent by-election win Brecon and Radnorshire. Plaid gets 7 seats, including Llanelli and Pontypridd. So can this plan make a real difference?
The net effect, therefore, of this alliance for the Liberal Democrats, certainly in England, likely to be small, and frankly, little more than a half dozen seats that are likely to be pushed in the Liberal Democrats' direction that perhaps might not otherwise be won by them as a result of the Greens standing down, or in the case of Montgomery, of Plaid Cymru standing down. So the truth is the net effect of this alliance is almost undoubtedly going to be small, given, frankly, the smallness of the parties who are involved in the alliance.
The biggest flaw in the plan may well be the absence of Labour, which is not offering Remain, only a second referendum. In Labour Tory marginals, a swing to the Remain alliance could allow the Conservatives in.
At the moment, according to one poll that's asked a relevant question, 8% of people say they're going to vote tactically. It was about 8% in the last election. It's been somewhat higher at some previous elections, when in truth there were rather more constituencies where the Liberal Democrats might be in a position to squeeze Labour. And certainly one of the challenges the Liberal Democrats will face, including in some of the seats of this pact, is actually persuading voters that now they are better placed to challenge the Conservatives and not Labour.
But the Remain alliance says that history doesn't really matter. This election is different. It's about what's best for the country.
I'm joined now by Sian Berry, co-leader of the Green Party, which is part of the Remain alliance. Good evening. How many of the 60 seats have you calculated that this alliance will win by teaming up that you wouldn't have got?
We think a lot of them, actually. About 44 was the estimate that was put out today. But I think you've seen John Curtis there staking his reputation on saying it'll only affect 6 seats. What we've seen and what we think is that voters out there want to see parties cooperating. So you can't just mathematically add together the votes, particularly not from the 2017 election. A lot of things have changed since then. People in the European elections, when every vote counted, were voting in huge numbers for parties other than Labour and the Conservatives. And I think there's appetite to do that again when they know that their vote will count. And this is the whole point of this is, we're saying we want to team up in these seats where we think by teaming up we can win, and I think people will react to that in a way that's bigger than the sum of its parts.
But I was just going to say, yes,
we can win in those seats.
If I could just come on this, you said at your launch yesterday it's the climate election, but now you're going to be denying 40 constituencies the chance to vote in that way with you.
That is a big question, and that's one of the big questions we put to our members. This has been quite a long process. Heidi Allen from Unite to Remain wrote to the leaders of the parties and said, this is something we should do. There's a Remain majority now in the country. You've had very good success in the local elections. There are many places now where there are Greens strong.
Sure
there are
Lib Dems
majority.
There's different polls on that.
But the polls on that have been quite consistent when you simply ask.
But you never know until you go back to the people.
So, no, we need to go back to people.
So do carry on.
Yeah, but we think there's a Remain majority, and we think there are lots of seats where there's a Remain majority, but there's strength in the Greens, strength in the Lib Dems, and neither party could win on their own. And we put that question that Heidi posed to us, would you talk about working together on some of those seats, to our members? And there was quite a lot of enthusiasm from our members, and there's been quite a lot of discussion through the various months before we got to this point of agreeing a deal. This wasn't an easy thing for us to do, actually. It isn't as simple as just saying sit down and carve up seats. We have to talk to our local parties.
So there's been a thorough process from your point of view. I mean, just to talk about your launch yesterday, you pledged to spend £100 billion. We've been talking huge numbers this evening, a year on climate action over the next decade. What is climate action?
Well, climate action is
That's
the
a
Green
huge figure.
New Deal that we've been talking about in the Green Party since when Labour were bailing out bankers when they were in government. We've needed to make this level of investment for a very long time, and it's really good to see people now talking about investing and borrowing to invest, when actually we've been under this straitjacket of austerity for such a long time.
But what is climate action? What
Climate
is
action
£100 billion
well, it's
going to be spent on?
converting all our homes to higher energy efficiency. It's doing a deep retrofit of our homes so that people's bills come down, so that the carbon is not being emitted by the heating system. It's getting our heating systems off gas. It's transforming our energy for electricity into wind. These are very big investments are being required for these things, and this needs to be done absolutely urgently if we're going to solve climate change.
And
if we work too slowly to succeed, we'll actually fail. That's what the scientists tell us.
So there's an
will
urgency
happen.
to it, but how long before the investment will pay for itself? What financial modelling have you done?
We think that in order to service the new debts, we need to find an extra £6.5 billion every year in revenue savings or taxes. We're going to look at taxing some of the higher carbon things to give incentives in the other direction as well to help find that. But it will not take long before the money starts to come in from the investments paying off in the wider economy. So we'll start to save, for example, on air pollution. Studies were done to look at the health benefits of reducing air pollution due to getting people cycling and walking, and the health benefits of more cycling and walking as well. It's hard to estimate the health benefits of cycling and walking. Imperial College looked at just the health benefits of air pollution being reduced, and they came up with a number that was so high that the Committee on Climate, this is work commissioned by the Committee on Climate Change, it was so high that the Committee on Climate Change sort of couldn't believe it, and they couldn't put it into their calculations. But in the real world, when you're the government borrowing to invest, when you start to reduce the amount of pollution in the air and people get healthier, that saving will show in the health service and you'll be able to realise it in the Exchequer. So, yes, we've started to do some modelling. The government's criminally neglected looking at the benefits of these kinds of investments. It's absolutely...
Well, you could
a lot
argue
of the things...
you've won, because there's now a central plank in both of the
so they're going to have to
parties'
transform
manifestos
their
with regard to
economic
this
modelling.
in what they've said so far about these manifestos. We shall see more.
in terms of transport.
Thank you very much for your time.